Why did they make it that funny aspect ratio?
You know what? Thanks for bringing that up, because I've read so many reviews and listened to all these podcasts, and no one brings up the 4x3, and it's 4x3.
Right. What's going on there? It's like the Paris Hilton sex tape.
I just want to launch right into this. I feel like I owe Zack Snyder an apology because for the longest time I thought he was the single biggest problem with the DCU. And now all I want is for him to have complete control over the whole franchise and realize his full vision for the universe.
It was pretty impressive what he did, and I think some of it was like kind of a perfect storm of like Whedon basically crashing and burning in the culture, which was like it left the door open for like a Snyder rising from the ashes, you know, a phoenix moment. Because I feel like people were kind of like hating on him. Whedon came in and he was the hero for a minute, but now we've all turned on Whedon and he's now, you know, he's now kicked out of the village. So now it's like, now suddenly it's like it's all about Snyder again.
Well, I feel like Whedon kind of got J.J. Abrams. He did his thing with Star Trek, loved it, go to Star Wars, and then crash and burned.
Whedon just really did not do this Justice League justice. I feel like he tried to give it the Avengers treatment, lighten the tone, throw in a bunch of jokes. He cut out all the character development that you see in this extended version. That's just so necessary. I mean, for the Avengers, he had like movies for all these people, so he didn't really have to do that.
He might have been given like a no-win situation too, because he came in at like the very last second.
That's true.
Like we don't know. It wasn't really his from the beginning.
I think the single biggest reason that Snyder Cut is so superior is simply due to runtime. They were able to throw in all the backstory of the characters that Whedon could never do because you've got like 3 new characters and a new villain, where Snyder got to do 4 hours, which is kind of like, well, now Cyborg gets his own mini movie, Flash gets his own mini movie, which they should have always had in the first place. Just really just huge mismanagement by DC to try to throw it all together, especially considering that Marvel set the groundwork. So with the limitations of the 2-hour runtime in theater, I don't know how you get that many new characters that have any kind of backstory or development.
So many things were just cut short. Having watched it after seeing the Snyder Cut again, it's just like the whole battle with the Amazons. It's just like, it feels so out of place. It's just all of a sudden there. Whereas in the Snyder Cut, it's like you have the whole mother box scene at the very beginning with the Superman screen. You get a few moments with him there, and then you come back to it, and the battle is just so much more extensive. You actually see the stakes. In the original, they knock the pillars to close the doors, and she like slides out. But then as soon as they do that, he just cuts through the wall anyway. It's just like, and that happens on so many points throughout the movie. And then with Cyborg, they completely redid his whole...
I think Cyborg, he's one of the biggest wins of this Snyder Cut. He's the one who went from probably like a 1 or a 2 to like a 7 or an 8. You know, I didn't even understand why he had to be there in the first, you know, with the Whedon cut. And now it's like he almost like upstaged some of the other guys, you know, like he's cooler. He really had a moment like with this, I think. He's one of the guys who benefited the most. Flash, maybe some things were taken away from Flash because he lost some of his humor that Whedon was good at like showcasing, because he had some great one-liners. That the biggest thing was like, I think his biggest win from the Whedon cut was the Pet Cemetery line, which was great. You know, that one actually did make me laugh out loud when he said it, and then they didn't keep it in for this one. But he also like had some great heroic moments with his powers too that weren't in the Whedon cut. Like,
well, he was relegated to like the menial tasks in the Whedon cut. Like, I'm going to push a car for the whole battle. I'm like out of town. It was terrible. I hated that treatment of him.
That whole thing with the hot dog and that girl. I don't know whether that was... I'm not sure how I feel about that. But...
No, him gazing at hot dogs in slow motion is a scene that I never knew I needed.
The whole scene with the Flash and the hot dogs, I could see the cringe of it, but it just... I mean, the Flash is cringe, right? So it's just like, it matches him.
He's awkward, yeah.
Is the Flash like overpowered? Is the DC universe in general like overpowered? Like they don't have like a Hawkeye. Like every one of those heroes would be like a god in the Marvel universe.
No,
right?
Batman's the Hawkeye, which kind of sucks.
Right.
He's kind of useless.
Right, he is, but everyone else is, they're either literally a god, or they're like, might as well be a god. Yeah. Like, they would destroy the Avengers, wouldn't they? They're just all like super powerful.
I mean, the way Superman toyed around with Steppenwolf, I don't think anyone's close. Like, Thor, Hulk, I don't think they're going to do much with Superman.
And I'm so glad we got much more with that Superman Steppenwolf fight, because in the original, he comes in, he punches him, and then he's like, I'm going to go save civilians.
Right, and I guess I just don't want Superman to be... I don't know if I want him to be better at everyone
Like he's as fast as the Flash.
Yeah, like he shouldn't be faster than the Flash. Like each of those characters should kind of be better at their peak power than Superman is at that power. And I did like that they didn't really pull his punches. Like when he headbutted Wonder Woman, I was like, wow, they had him, like he headbutted a woman. Okay? Like, I know she's a Wonder Woman, but still.
I mean, I like the way that it's set up for the whole Injustice storyline for the future.
So the only reason to tease that like apocalyptic future of Superman is purely like to get the nerds lathered up again and start a Twitter campaign and maybe force this thing through.
Well, let's do it.
I mean, I want it. It's the first time I've ever watched a DC movie where I'm like, I want the next thing, where I never felt like that with any of the previous ones.
Yeah, I think it's gaining steam. Like, I think it was a big win. I don't know about financially if it was a big win for them, but people were into it. And I think it kind of exceeded expectations in a lot of ways.
Well, let me ask you guys this. It's the kind of unprecedented to be able to compare this movie with the other version of the movie, but the same story. Is it possible to judge this film in a vacuum on its own accord? Because comparatively, yeah, it's way better. That's not saying much. We all hated the last movie. But if this had come out without the existence of the Whedon cut, would we feel less enthusiastic about it?
I think I would have still liked it a lot. I mean, it had been so long that I cared so little for the Whedon cut that I didn't really remember a whole lot. I still would have loved it, even if this was the original.
I think it did benefit for sure from the Whedon cut and how it was perceived. Like if neither of that happened, I think there was a lot of fatigue with Snyder at that point. I think Snyder needed the Whedon cut to happen, and I think he needed Whedon to be outed as kind of a creeper and a jerk, and then deliver something also that was decent. I think it's a perfect storm, and now it's just like he's benefiting from all that, and the DC universe is benefiting from it. And also, like, those Snyder movies were coming out at the worst possible time when it was like the highest peak of Marvel hype. Nobody wanted, like, what is this other thing? Like, it's just crap. We're all about Marvel. Marvel's just like home run after home run. Like, it came out at like the fever pitch for Marvel. So like now we're a little bit like on the downturn for Marvel. So it's also like even the timing is right. Like if this had come out at the peak of like Endgame, Infinity War, everyone's like, what is this garbage? We don't want look at all the slow-mo. It's too serious. We hate it. Like,
plus take into account like the COVID, we're all at home, this is streaming on our TVs. Like it is really the perfect storm. Can the storm continue? Like, is there any chance? I really need to see Snyder's vision through. It got me excited, those last two epilogues.
They're in a weird place because they also have like the Batman solo movie coming out.
And Joaquin Phoenix is also the Joker in another universe.
Yeah, like I'm not really sure who's like in charge over there.
Yeah.
Like they're kind of Marvel. You just feel like they're just so in control of every. Like Marvel is so like they're so about the flex at this point that they're just like, who is like the least successful, least popular character that we can possibly like invest $100 million in? That's who we're gonna like make a movie and a show about. And like I'm always like, that's terrible. Like the Falcon. Like, are you kidding me? Like he's just like the worst possible joke of a character. Like I have zero interest. And then they're like, flex. Like we're gonna make a $100 million 6-episode Falcon.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you're gonna get. And I'm just like, oh, you guys suck. And then I watch it and I'm just like, I love it. Like how do we do that? Like, I don't understand. Like, they don't even promote their best characters. Like, they go the other way and they somehow, like, make it work. It just makes everything stronger. In DC, it's like, you give them, like, their rock star character and they're just like, blah. Like, they can't even pull that off.
Martha! That's kind of the direction Snyder was trying to go, but he just, I mean, I could see how the runtime of a theatrical release would have limited what he's able to do. And, pushing the Justice League movie to be this soon, I mean, it would have been nice if you had more time to build up to it.
Yeah, it only limits it when you don't take your time with the characters. Like, they each needed their own movie in their own time. The only buildup we had for it was a flash drive with a few QuickTime movies on it from Batman Superman. It was pathetic.
Way, that was like the cheesiest thing where like Lex has that stupid logo for each character. That was so stupid.
It's so bad.
It might as well be like a Burger King marketing what, that's just ridiculous, right? Like, does he have a graphic design? Is he like in Photoshop making those?
I don't know.
Like, it's so dumb.
It is.
Yeah. Like a file for Wonder Woman. Like, it's not that.
Ben, what did you notice rewatching the Whedon cut of Justice League?
Mostly things were just cut down. Like the scene with Wonder Woman in the bank. It's just like they took all the blood out and they ended it before, right as she's about to pound her her little gauntlets together, and so they cut out all the actual brutality of that scene. They completely changed the cyborg's background. It's not a car crash anymore. He says that it was an explosion, and it's just like they don't really go into detail of that. The dad never dies. At the end, he's like finally buddying up with his dad, and so it's just like all of that is just completely lost. And Steppenwolf, oh mother, it's just like his motivations are stupid. It's all about these weird mother boxes, and he's like worshiping mother, and he's conquering just because he conquers. And like the new Steppenwolf is just such a great villain.
I still don't really know who he is, but he improved like 300% for sure.
I mean, even just the look, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's obvious, okay, he's some kind of minion for Darkseid. They make it clear from the get-go that he's, like, in exile trying to regain Darkseid's favor, and he luckily happens upon a world that contains a lot of importance to Darkseid. You could see how much is riding on him conquering this planet. The stakes are actually there in this movie, whereas before it's just like, mother box.
I mean, I believe, like, his whole motivation was summed up in one line from Wonder Woman when she's like, he wants to make all worlds like his destroyed world, and like that was it.
Yeah.
Like that's his whole purpose, which is like the most vaguest sci-fi jargon you can think of. Is terrible.
Yeah, bad man is bad. That's pretty much what it is.
I really like the pathetic kind of sniveling Steppenwolf to Darkseid. I wanted more of that though. Like I wouldn't have minded a Steppenwolf movie where you saw him fail so much so that when he eventually dies by Wonder Woman, you actually feel bad for him because he's a pathetic figure. Like they touched on it.
Yeah,
that would have been cool. You're right. Yeah, I agree. I don't know. Like Marvel, they always say like Marvel has a villain problem. Although I feel like they squashed that with Thanos. They pulled that off somehow. But like
Thanos and Loki were good. Yeah.
Is Loki? I guess Loki is Loki. So you're thinking Steppenwolf could almost be like a Loki, where he's like a sympathetic villain, although maybe never redeemed.
They feel compelled to kill the bad guy. And you see the heroes throughout multiple movies, but the bad guy is just like gets his one movie. Look how they did Loki. Loki was like the main bad guy for the Avengers, but then you see him and he's kind of this side bad guy, just like scheming here and there.
Yeah.
Right? Never the main bad guy again, but it still works.
And even Thanos was teased from the first Avengers, and by the time he shows up, his motivation is crystal clear, which for Steppenwolf and Darkseid, not so much, but at least they teased Darkseid. The problem is, I don't think there's any more Snyder movies coming out, so maybe that's it.
I mean, I don't really know Darkseid's origin. I don't even know what he is. Like,
well, it's confusing. Like, I don't know what Anti-Life is. They're just throwing this stuff out. I'm not going to go read the comics ahead of time, like do homework to understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's the one thing I wish they would have explained. I wish they would have explained why or how Darkseid lost Earth.
And again, I would have liked a movie about that backstory, like the three races coming together. It's pretty awesome. Never thought about it in that context. It's just like one little blip.
All the old gods fighting together.
So what would have happened if Darkseid would have hopped through that portal at the end and taken them on? Is he strong enough to fight them?
Darkseid is strong, but he can't 1v5 or 1v6 or however, that whole team.
Chris, you made a good point earlier in the week to me that they should have built up why they needed Superman so bad, because Steppenwolf is strong, but like it seems like they could kind of handle him without Superman.
Right. I think that would have added bigger stakes for them, motivation for why they needed to bring Superman back, because it did feel a little arbitrary to me that they were so obsessed with bringing him back when they had just kind of like at least fought Steppenwolf to a stalemate, if not defeated him. And then but we need Superman. But like, so I think it would have been more impactful if they had lost that fight to Steppenwolf and then they're like, oh, we need Superman.
Like it's really their only option. One
of the things I did like about the Whedon cut is the moment when they're talking about bringing Superman back. There's conflict there. Wonder Woman's against it. I don't know, the conflict around the morality of bringing Superman back.
That's still kind of murky to me, though. Like, what were they afraid of happening there? Like the unity with the boxes and like, basically revealing the mother boxes to Darkseid or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they were trying to set it up like when you see Cyborg's past and how they were able to use the mother box and how the mother box created a new body for Cyborg. Because Cyborg's entire body was created from the mother box.
And they're just like some kind of strange, all-powerful alien technology? That's what they are?
Yeah, it's super advanced technology that is power to change and evolve anything, essentially.
It's not the worst, like, superhero explanation of why this thing is happening, but I'm still not on board with the name of it. Motherbox sounds like a fetish website or something.
Right. Marvel, now I'm just remembering, like, before Marvel had the stones, weren't there, like, blue cubes?
That was one of the stones, the Tesseract.
Oh, okay.
That's the Space Stone.
Like, so Loki's staff in the Avengers used one of the stones.
The Mind Stone. Marvel did such a good job building the whole thing up. Like, they had a 20-year roadmap, and they stuck to it. DC has been spinning and turning U-turns at every point.
Yeah, they can't make up their mind. Like, they started with Zack Snyder, but then they were having issues with him, and then it seems like when that tragedy happened in his family, they're like, okay, we finally have the excuse to kick this guy out because whatever reason they didn't like what he was doing, and they can't make up their mind. Yeah. They need someone with a vision who's in charge of it.
An architect.
Yeah, that's what Marvel has, and that's what DC is lacking. Yeah. They think they can just piggyback off of the superhero hype.
But I have to think, like, with Marvel, like, it can't all be one guy. I mean, I know one guy's in charge, but, like, there has to be also, it has to just be an incredibly effective organization, right? Because they must be, like, delegating. There must be, like, little generals. It never loses control. There's never, like, civil war. It's all on point.
You're right. It's got to have the infrastructure, because when you pick a guy like James Gunn, who is an indie horror flick director, to do Guardians of the Galaxy, which is not just an unknown IP, but a completely bizarre, weird IP, and it works into one of our favorites, that only works with a really strong infrastructure. It's like unprecedented what they've been able to do. It seems easy now, but that many different directors, that many different IPs all in one universe is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of unprecedented, and like, it does make, because like they're all trying to do that, right? Star Wars is trying to do it, DC's trying to do it, the Universal Cinematic Universe, remember that? Like, it was just horrible, like, from almost embarrassingly bad, like, but yet Marvel just makes it look easy, somehow. And I thought they'd screw up Phase 4, and so far, like, Phase 4 has been incredible. Like, I love WandaVision, I really like Falcon and Winter Soldier.
I mean, speaking of flexing, they're doing like Leave It to Beaver sitcoms, and it's working still.
Like, they can't mess up at this point. Yeah, in DC, I mean, I kind of feel like Batman might be the most beloved singles comic book character ever in the culture. They own like the best of the best heroes in any universe.
Yeah, and if Batman's number 1, Superman's number 2. Like, we want these characters to succeed.
And they still they kind of succeed, but like a B level. Like, they're not like A+ing it,
Oh, I mean, after Batman Superman, it was an F. It was really bad.
The thing about Batman Superman that, like, I think people don't realize or remember is, like, it's actually kind of a beautiful movie in a lot of parts. Like, it's very, like, cinematic and filmic and photographic. It's kind of a beautiful movie, like, the way it looks.
Zack Snyder's a talented cinematographer. Even the opening of Batman Superman, you see Bruce Wayne's parents get killed in the alley, which we've seen a dozen times in film. But this one, like, from new angles and, like, ways we've never seen before. It is extremely beautiful.
But there are parts in Batman Superman that looked very photographic, even like when the buildings are coming down and you're seeing all that Man of Steel footage from the different point of view. That's kind of like amazing, that whole sequence.
I do want to give DC some credit. We praise Marvel's casting. We think superhero movies are easy to make, but to get the right guy for the character has got to be impossible. I feel like Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman might be the single all-time greatest casting of any character in any film ever.
She was the breakout, although I'm still not totally sure I've seen how well. Like, I still don't know if she can act that well.
I agree with you, but I can't imagine anyone else playing that role. Even the accent, like, I can't place it. I know you're not from here. Like, it's perfect.
Right. And then, like, to the point where they made all the other American actresses playing the other Wonder Women, they now have to have Israeli accents. Like, that's just the Amazonian accent now.
I know. Yeah, she created that, what the accent is. And then even Jason Momoa, like, if they had cast some, like, blonde frat boy looking guy, it would have been terrible. But Momoa pulls it off. He makes Aquaman cool. And he was the dorkiest of all characters.
I was grumpy about Aquaman casting at first. I was one of those, like, old codgers that was like, that's not Aquaman. Oh, I still think, like, Aquaman shouldn't be, like, have a body like that. Like, he should have a swimmer's body. Like, he should be ripped like the way, like, Phelps is ripped.
Yeah.
Like, not like the way The Rock is ripped.
Right.
So, like, he's not very, like, streamlined for the water, but you can't take your eyes off him. Like, he's a human specimen.
Yes.
Like, even down to, like, his hair and his tattoos. Like, he's just, you almost can't believe that guy is real. Like, he couldn't play like a normal character, like, hey, I'm just...
No, he couldn't work in like an office or something.
Yeah, like, I'm your new IT manager, Rob, or whatever. Like, you couldn't be that, right?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Just be, like, ridiculous.
I'm even buying Ben Affleck as Batman. Like, I think he has the look. Again, he's like relegated to useless in these movies, which I hate. But he has the look. I'm with it.
One of the things we have to remember is he's been Batman for 20 years. Bruce Wayne, this is like a 20-year veteran Bruce Wayne Batman. Like, I mean, he's he's supposed to be not only like billionaire tech guy, but genius tactician as well.
Yeah.
And I wish we would have seen more of that genius tactician, especially since he's supposed to be veteran Batman.
I agree, because even when he's like, this is why I brought you guys together, I'm like, you traveled to Finland and went to Flash's basement, but it wasn't that much.
Well, he did some stuff with Wonder Woman, too.
I think Wonder Woman was coming on her own. She got an arrow shot at her old house.
That's true, she did.
But as someone who every day notices a new gray hair, Ben Affleck is like my ideal, best possibility for what my hair could look like one day.
Right. I mean, I don't even have those goals anymore. Yeah, I mean, that would be amazing, but... No, I mean, Ben Affleck actually is kind of an underrated, Bruce Wayne Batman. Like, I like him in the role, actually.
That is, I guess, one of the things that I do give a lot of credit to Batman v Superman is I really enjoyed the Batman action scenes in that movie. I felt like this is what Batman is supposed to look like when he's fighting.
Hunting down those two scumbags in the old beat-up house, and he's spinning through the rafters, and it's his special power is fear. Like, he makes enemies afraid of him, right?
Yeah. That was something I just didn't really see in the Nolan Batmans. That was like a big, like, oh, I'm just going to move my arms back and forth kind of punching fight. And
they're getting better at the Batsuit. And in, like, the worst, so you go back to, like, the Michael Keaton ones, and he couldn't even move, right?
Yeah.
Like,
all the rubber.
And they've gotten, like, progressively better. Yeah, and also, like, Ben Affleck is, like, physically imposing, like Batman should be.
He's got dad mass now.
Right, yeah. Whereas, like, Bale was always kind of just, like, he's some Welsh, like, I don't know what he is. Like, I don't know. He's, like I just kind of sensed that he wasn't really Bruce Wayne. I don't know. He's kind of thin, and, like, he's, like, 5'11". Whereas, like, Ben Affleck actually has, like you said, dad mass. Like, and there's, like, the way they did the eyes with, like, the dark, like, it looks cool. Like, yeah, there's something working about that maybe they don't get enough credit for.
Surprisingly, and through these crappy movies, he might be one of our best Batman, which is one of the most surprising things to me.
Right. He needs, like, an A+ movie to really shine,
And maybe that would have been the movie he would direct of himself, but I think that's been taken off the table as well.
You know how they altered the whole Lex Luthor end credit scene? In the original one, it's super short, and all he says is, we should make a league of our own.
Yeah.
Whereas in this one, it's like, hey, you want to know something? The Batman, he's Bruce Wayne.
I mean, the Batman-Joker pairing is fascinating. I need to know why and how that came to be.
I got a big kick out of that back and forth and that dialogue, and the Joker just, like, messing with him and teasing him and trying to push him as far as he could.
Really? Did they have to say reach around? Like, that was kind of...
I like Joker to be twisted, but I don't want him to be horny.
Joker's doing the bro gay humor because he's trying to push Batman's buttons. I mean...
Right, I guess. Yeah, maybe. That's true.
And I love Leto. Like, Requiem for a Dream is my favorite movie. I'm unsure about him as Joker. But I feel like he's like 50% Heath Ledger and then 50% contrived. So I'm not really sure about him.
Yeah, Leto's good. I mean, it may not be Ledger good, but it's still really good. And he does do some things that are differently, even, like, down to his look. Like, he's scarier than Ledger ever was. Like, he's nightmarish. Like, he actually is almost demonic. Like, he truly is chaos personified, There always was, like, a humanity to Ledger that made him more, like, realistic. But, like, with Leto, like, he really is kind of a terrifying force. And I think with the right movie, you could maybe capitalize on that, and it would work really well. Like, it'd be effective. Because I think the Joker should be terrifying, I
think him in that post-apocalyptic, I really liked it.
I definitely want to see that movie. I hope it happens.
But now we got, like, even a third. Now we have the Joker.
I know.
The Willem Dafoe Joker from the Batman solo.
I think they're trying to spin it as, the DC multiverse. This Batman movie is in a different universe.
No, I mean, it's strange because then you have Pattinson, he's like maybe 30 at the most, like he's young. And then you have Affleck, who's older, but then the Joker in the Patterson movie is like older than any Joker we've seen. Like he's an old man Joker. I don't know. It's all very strange. And then you have Joaquin, who's like in his 40s, but he's just starting as Joker. Then you have Leto, who's also in his 40s, but he's like an established Joker, even though we haven't seen him in the role that much. It's all over the place. What's going on?
Well, to wrap this podcast up, I guess my last thought is that now that COVID's taught us that there can be movies direct to streaming at home, I kind of hope a big streaming service just signs Snyder's universe up as a separate thing. Then there can also be a theatrical version. But I want the Snyder universe, and I want the Matt Reeves universe, and I want it all. And I'm okay with multiple Batmans and multiple Jokers. Like, let's just do it.
Yeah.
I mean, they do that. I guess they do that in the comics, and we're okay with it in the comics, right? Like, I mean, they'll have like 4 Batman comics running concurrently, and they're all kind of like their own thing.
Yeah.
Like, plus like solo graphic novels that come out. Maybe they can, maybe like we're ready for that as a culture with the movies too. I don't know.
If they're going straight to streaming, then they don't have to worry about the whole theatrical runtime anymore, because you're not out at a theater sitting down. If people are in their home, they can deal with a 4-hour movie.
Well, I love how they broke it up into chapters with titles. Like, it could have been 6 hours. I don't care. Like, I'll take as much as I can get.
I want more. That's my closing. I want more.
I want it to become a trend where any bad movie that we know can be good gets redone by a new director.
And then it'll just never end. Like,
I know.
We'll just keep getting these things forever. But maybe that's not a bad thing.
In this case, it definitely wasn't a bad thing. So
yeah, I think Snyder's he's got to be feeling pretty good about this, right?
Oh.
Like Whedon's got to feel just horrible.
Snyder's got the nerds on his side, and nerds can change the world. So bring on the Snyderverse.
Yeah. Reviews are positive. I mean, most of the negative reviews are it's too long. And it's just like, okay, well, if that's like your worst complaint, then...
I'm at home, man. I've got food in the bathroom. It's fine.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, good talk, guys. Thanks for doing this. It was fun catching up.
Boy, man, man, boy.